and Karishma and Narinder whenever you are ready.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the conference. I hope you've used this break to maybe stretch your legs or grab a coffee and are raring to go for the last segment. Before we introduce our final speaker event, we'd like to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to all of our wonderful sponsors. Without a doubt, the Conference on Law and Ethical Responsibility of Business would not be possible without the support of the Murray Wealth Group, as well as those individuals who have kindly donated to ensure the success of the event. As a new conference, it would have been a struggle without you.
We'd also like to thank all of our in-kind sponsors. They generously provided voucher and discount codes, which you can find on pages 13 and 14 of your delegate packages. Again, just a massive thank you to absolutely everyone who contributed. Today would not be possible without you, so thank you. And we really look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you both. We're now going to hear from Miriam, who is going to introduce our panel.
Hello, everyone. So we're now going to begin our speakers panel, which is on sustainable business in and for development. This is inspired by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs for short. This panel is an opportunity for us all to collaborate and interact with individuals from different academic and professional backgrounds than ourselves. The panel consists of passionate entrepreneurs from sustainable businesses, as well as forward-thinking minds from academia. The SDGs are the fundamental cornerstone to secure future economic and business growth by eradicating poverty in an inclusive way while protecting the environment. Business has a unique opportunity to embrace the SDG agenda and recognize it as a driver of business strategies, innovation, and investment decisions. But at the CLERB, we believe these successes can only be achieved through an interdisciplinary lens. So now I'm just going to present our chair, Jacqueline Plattis, who is here to facilitate the panel discussion this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miriam. That was lovely. So again, I just wanted to remind those people that weren't here at the beginning, the delegates, our incredible delegates, when you have a question, please save it till the end. We're going to talk for approximately an hour and there'll be 15 minutes delegated at the end for questions. If you would like to verbally ask a question, you can just raise your hand and we will get to you. Or if you're more comfortable typing it out, feel free to pop it in the chat box and I will read it out to our panelists. So hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on a Saturday afternoon or morning, depending on where you are in the world. I wanted to just begin by giving each of you an opportunity to introduce yourself and give a little bit of a summary of what you do in your experience. So I think the best way to facilitate this is I'll call you out one by one and then you can just get into it and we'll go through the questions as prompts this way. So to begin, Misha, would you like to introduce yourself and give us a little bit of a summary about you?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Misha Said. I'm located in Toronto, Canada, and I'm the co-founder of Namasthetics. We are an e-com-based yoga apparel company focusing on women's wear and making yoga and meditation more accessible and inclusive.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Jane, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm in the UK. My name is Jane Clark-Denyer and I own a company called Organically Epic. And we are a multi-award winning dental company. Very small. And yeah, we're just trying to bring sustainable products to the forefront because there's a massive middle market of people that want to change to these type of things, but they don't know how to. And, you know, it's really difficult to try and get to those people as well, but that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it accessible, but also I appreciate it is at the higher end of accessible because sustainability isn't cheap, unfortunately, which we'll all be talking about today, I am sure. But that's me, that's what I do.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Anna, whenever you're ready.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna and I am the co-founder of Upcircle Beauty. We make sustainable skincare products from ingredients that would otherwise be discarded. Our ingredients are always vegan, cruelty-free. Our products are handmade in the UK, which is where I am based in London. The idea started out with coffee grounds. So we collect used coffee from cafes and restaurants all over the city and then turn them into natural exfoliators. We then expanded out that ingredient portfolio to take on other byproducts from other industries. Things like powdered fruit stones that we use in face masks or cleansing balms, even bark extract from trees that we use as a protective and nourishing ingredient in an eye cream. So yeah, every single formulation that we make is made with a different byproduct. So it's really tackling issues of waste in the beauty industry, which is no easy task, but that's what we do.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Usman.
Hi, everyone. My name is Usman. My background is engineering and project management. I'm the founder of the Pioneers, and our goal is to use engineering in a more sustainable way. So we promote the use of more sustainable solutions for architecture, just so that we improve the quality of life. Our main focus at the moment is on Africa. As you know, it's an open canvas with loads of opportunities for development. And we're here to just make sure that all of that development is as sustainable as possible so that the economy and the environment can sort of coexist with that demand for development. I'm based in London, but yeah, with the help of Skype and everything else, we're able to do the best we can without being able to travel. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Montserrat.
Thank you. Very well pronounced. My name is Montserrat Madariaga and I am Chilean. I'm in Chile at the moment and I am an environmental law lawyer. I've worked for the private sector doing some environmental auditing to companies. So I can relate to your experience from that point, but now I'm more focused on academia. I'm doing a PhD at UCL. But given COVID, I came while the university reopens, but that's what I'm doing, a PhD on climate change law and governance, and researching a bit about, global north and global south, and I'm trying to bring the voices of the South also to the international discussion and the international environmental law scholarship.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So delegates, I'm sure you've gathered that our panel is quite diverse in perspectives, and that is the whole ethos of this conference, is so that we can all engage and interact with one another, as usually as when we're working, we're interacting with like-minded people. So this is an opportunity for us to really learn from one another. We'll continue with the questions, and I think it'll be easiest if we go in the same order that we just did. So I can prompt just in case you forget or anything like that. And we'll go through the prompt questions and get into delegate questions, more of a conversation as we continue on. So the first question we're going to begin with, and Misha, you can start us off, are what are some of the challenges that you have faced during your work due to your focus on sustainability?
Well, I think it was already kind of touched on in an intro as well, which is probably going to be the theme of this conversation, but the making something that's sustainable also accessible. So our approach to the yoga industry and athletic apparel in general was that we felt like that one of the greatest barriers to starting a meditation or yoga practice was the cost that's associated with it. And although we love what other companies are doing, not everyone can afford over $100 pair of leggings for a single use, so that you're going to have to wash and reuse. Typically you want a couple of each pair. And so our approach was to bring our prices down and to make things more affordable so that practices became more accessible. But then with that, with the sustainability piece, it is very, very hard to source sustainable goods at an affordable price, especially when you bring in like locally sourced into the mix as well. And I find, especially here in Toronto, what a lot of people think is that, you know, locally sourced and sustainable kind of go hand in hand. And if it's not one or the other, then it's almost like a detriment to society to help support your business. And so for us, our biggest struggle has wanting to be sustainable, implementing sustainable practices, but still being able to stay afloat, grow as a business, offer more competitive rates to our customers. Oftentimes, or at least what I found in our industry, is it's a very select group of people that are actually willing to pay the higher price point for sustainable. Consumers typically want sustainable, but cannot always afford or cannot always justify the price tag once they actually see it.
Right. And something that I wanted to add, just for our delegates, a little bit of a background about Namasthetics is they've been actively making a shift to become more and more sustainable. So Misha offers a unique perspective in that regard, as the Namasthetics wasn't founded as a sustainable brand. They've been making choices based on their ethos and passion. So there's a challenge to that, I assume, as well, Misha.
Yeah. So what we always knew that we wanted to be sustainable, but the way that we started as a drop shipping company. So as opposed to, you know, placing our order and designing our collection and launching right off the bat, we were a pretty lean startup, and we just knew that we wanted to offer accessibility into yoga, but we weren't sure how to do it. We didn't have a lot of money to invest. So we started by drop shipping until we got to the point where we could reinvest our money back into the company. But with that, knowing that we still wanted to be a sustainable business, as we were, you know, growing and as we were reinvesting in the company, trying to figure out how to invest that money as well. Sorry, I have a little puppy in the background.
I was thinking, where's that coming from?
Oh, he's here. He sees the treats. So as we were trying to also grow the business and expand, we were struggling with, how do you also make a choice to be sustainable?
Thank you so much. And Jane, would you like to answer the question? If you need me to reiterate it, also let me know.
I've got that. And it's really interesting actually to hear from Misha, because I think we're all going to have this theme of it's really difficult to be a sustainable business, and sustainability, and people don't understand it either, and price points, and, you know, our margins are a lot lower. We all get screwed on margins. I think we'll probably agree with that, because we want to be affordable, we want to grow, we want to compete with the big guys, so we are screwed on margins to be able to get people to be able to afford our product or service. And again, it's really interesting because sustainability is a spectrum, and obviously Misha was saying you started out as a drop shipping and you've just started growing, and when you first start out you can't tick all the boxes, but if you don't tick all the boxes, some people say, well, you're not sustainable then. Or if you're ticking too many of the boxes, people get a bit, oh my God, well, I don't agree with that, and that's a bit too much. So you've kind of got to find your niche, which is difficult as a business, because you want to do it all, and you can't do it all because that costs money, and you can't do that all because then it doesn't bring in the money. So it is, as you grow, you become better, so to speak. So trying to get that across to customers and potential customers is difficult. There's a lot of education. There will be a lot of education in skincare, a lot of education in what I do, dental, clothing. There's education all over, and it's constant conversation. It's not as easy as going, buy my product, it will clean your teeth. You have to go, buy my product, it will clean your teeth, and this, and this, and this, and this, not a Colgate toothbrush sitting in a chemist. So that you've got to basically educate your customer, consumer, wholesaler, which is difficult. And it's, the definition of sustainability is so large and vast, because there's no legalities with what it means to be sustainable, which is very difficult. And we're all trying as sustainable businesses to do it all correctly, because it doesn't only mean the product that you're selling, it means who is manufacturing that product for you, who is making that, what electricity do you use in your building. All of these things, you've got to think of the bigger picture, pay people correctly, make sure your manufacturer isn't doing dodgy practices, especially if, you know, you're not sourcing it close to home, which I don't with our products at the moment. So you've got to think about the all-encompassing sustainability of it, but you can't do it all at once. And that's kind of a lot. It's quite difficult to kind of get that out there for people to understand. That's the main thing that I find. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So many moving pieces.
Yeah, definitely. And you're constantly thinking of how you can be better, what you can do, what you can't do. And cash flow for a small business is the biggest thing that kind of stops you from being able to do everything that you can. But maybe in 5 years you can do all those things, you know, it's, yeah.
Right. Brilliant. Thank you, Jane. Anna, would you like to add to that?
Yes. I mean, I think as I briefly mentioned earlier, I think if you're doing anything first, you're always going to face many, many hurdles. You know, all pioneers have got lots of hoops to jump through and barriers to break down. As I mentioned, for us specifically, we are operating within the beauty industry, and we are a brand who are centered around tackling issues of waste and education around that. Now, when you think of those two things, they operate on complete opposite ends of the spectrum. So trying to think about how on earth we're going to navigate that and communicate that without actually putting people off the products that we're making is a big challenge that we have faced. To the extent that when we started out, you know, I launched the business with my brother. I was 23, he was 26. We were quite young. Everyone is pretty clueless when they start out. You can't know everything on day one. And so, of course, you take the advice of mentors and investors, and you kind of cling on to their every word. I would say 90% of ours said, don't do it. The industry is not ready. Sure, you can collect your coffee grounds, you can have this cool little thing that you're doing, but do not necessarily put that at the forefront of your brand. Let that be something that the true eco warriors will discover and love, but it will be like the little secret. So of course we listened, and we launched a first brand under a completely different aesthetic with a different brand name, and we operated for just under 2 years with that before deciding, do you know what, I think you're wrong. And we did a complete rebrand. We then completely shifted our whole approach so that our waste fighting circular economy mission was the complete center of our brand, because really that's what makes us stand out. That's what makes us different to the hundreds of thousands of other brands out there on the market. And sure, some people might not like it, they might not get it, they might not want to get it, and that's absolutely fine. But I'd rather have less customers who are super passionate than loads of people who just feel a little bit vanilla about what we're doing. And ever since we chose to rebrand and actually really put that front and center, our growth has been much, much, much faster. So I think that that was an example of a good decision that we made, but the fact that we were so strongly put off from doing it in the first place, I think is quite telling. Again, if you take the fact that we're working with the circular economy, this year has been a real fun one for us to try to navigate. For months, every cafe and restaurant shut down, and every single one of our products is collaborative by its very nature. We rely on the function of other industries for our products to exist. You know, over 50% of our formulation for those coffee products, for example, is from you know, true entrepreneurs, we had to get our out of the box thinking caps on and make it work. But I think, again, as a young brand, that drive to prove people wrong is something that really pushes you forward. A lot of people thought when we go to big retailer meetings, they say, look, your idea is amazing, we love it, but are you going to be ready tomorrow to launch into 2,000 stores? How are you going to scale it? We've only been going for 4 years, and in 2019, as a team of 3, we launched our products into more than 3,000 stores. So hopefully by this point, we've kind of proven people wrong, but there's an awful lot of having to prove people wrong, I think, when you're doing something new and when you're taking the next step with regards to sustainability.
Thank you so much, Anna. Usman, maybe you could add your 2 cents on your journey and your perspective on what the other 3 speakers have said.
Yeah, thanks. I think our concerns and challenges are very consistent. In terms of engineering and architecture, I'll give you a simple example, because we use 3 pillars to sort of assess sustainability. We use the society, the economy, and the environment. So, for example, someone in Africa, for example, he chops a tree down to feed his family. So that's sort of the economy side of things, but then he doesn't know that that's affecting the environment. So if the rainfall, if there's, so, you know, in the long run, if he's chopped 10, 20, 50 trees down, it affects the environment, and then there's less rainfall to provide food for him. So finding that balance between the economy, the society, and the environment is also a big challenge. And that's why when we start doing our designs, we look into those three things. We make sure we know exactly what the people want, so what the society want, and the benefits that they expect from that design. It could be a library or, you know, a school, how that would affect the environment. So we make sure we bring in the most sustainable materials. And then economy-wise, it's sort of employing the local people so that they can make a living and then have a skill that they can use to build other buildings of the same nature. So it's, you know, finding that balance between those three pillars is always a very big challenge. And each project is unique in the sense of what's there, what the people need, what the economy is like. So I think awareness is also a very big thing. It's very important because some people aren't aware of the benefits of buying sustainable products or building sustainable homes. And that's the reason why they'd rather buy other products and other things. And if they were aware, if they watch more TV shows or programs about how the world is being damaged, how, you know, the North Pole and the South Pole are being affected, how there's flooding in some areas, and then, you know, loads of water in some areas, and then no water at all in other areas, and how our lives and how we live now is affecting it, then I think maybe they would decide to choose to support more sustainable businesses and live more sustainable lives. So I think awareness is a big challenge, and balancing those three main pillars of sustainability.
Wow, thank you so much, Usman. Montserrat, maybe you could add from your academia lens and expertise what your thoughts are and your own experience.
I think that awareness point fits perfectly with the challenges that I've faced as an academic, or as I call myself like an academic activist, to be honest. And an example that relates very well to this need of awareness is that, you know, Chile was going to host, we were going to host COP25 last year, the climate change conference. It went to Madrid at the end because of a government decision. We were facing some riots. We have a constitutional reform coming up now, so that was the excuse to move COP to Madrid. But before COP, there was in the university, we decided to ask to see how well informed people were about climate change and COPs. And we discovered that even though most students care about climate change and they want to learn more about it, they wouldn't even know what a COP was. While when I was living at the UK, I could see in areas what's happening, you could see it on the news, etc. And here it wasn't clear, you know. So the first point that we needed to make as we were facing COP was to start talking about climate change as climate change. Like, we discovered that even high-level authorities, they thought that climate change was like, you know, this vague concept. So I started like using this phrase that in every lecture, in every seminar, in every invitation that I got to government meetings or to the Senate, and I would use this PowerPoint slide that said, climate change is not an environmental issue, sorry. Why? Because if you look at the government, then you see that we have ministers for everything, like transport, energy, agriculture, forestry, and all of those activities are related to climate change. But climate change was perceived by them as something that was a problem of the Minister for Environment. So bringing this transversality was very, very important. And that would be like a first big challenge that we face. And then a second one, more related to businesses. I think that it's actually the law and bureaucracy as a problem for businesses. Many times sometimes I work with small businesses or engineer projects that are trying to, be more sustainable, etc. And the incentives are just not there, the legal incentives, and bureaucracy many times can be like a complete turnout for them. And they just turn to these voluntary schemes like FCC, the paper thing, whatever. But actually, there's no traceability of those voluntary schemes. So then we find that the soft law is a very big problem for us, because you cannot really like trace it. For instance, we have the energy sector saying that 30% of Chile energy is renewable. So most companies, they say we use renewable energy, but they don't have the technology yet to implement, to actually monitor which energy are they using. So all of them have that tick box, but actually no, it's impossible. Otherwise we would need like 70% of our energy being renewable, and it's not the case. So that traceability, so the use of voluntary schemes by big companies especially has made them maybe have less meaning, like they don't mean anything anymore. So those two challenges, I think, are to begin with, are the most important ones.
Thank you so much for that. I think it's very interesting to see the different perspectives from businesses, what's actually happening, and then from an engineering perspective and an academic perspective, what should be happening. It's interesting to learn from, just someone who's curious about the topic, that the governments are getting in the way a little bit. It's something that kind of blows my mind. But on that note, we're going to move forward to talk more about, despite the challenges, what are some of your future goals for yourself, for your industry, and for your research, if you are passionate about research. And also to all of our speakers, feel free to modify the questions as you see fit, so you can really maximize on your experience and perspective. We'll begin with Misha whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Sorry. So I would say that like long-term goal and like the goal would be for Namasthetics to be a certified B Corp company, to know that we are absolutely carbon neutral, and that every stage from our design to our manufacturing to our shipping processes are environmentally friendly and sustainable. I think in fashion in general, that is very hard. It's a hard feat to accomplish, and very few, especially like bigger brands, are able to achieve it when you're dealing with trends and fast fashion. So our goal, I'll talk over the next year, is we would like to redefine fast fashion and still be able to offer trendy clothes, but have it be more harmfully made. So some that we gained over, especially during COVID, we've had the time to really sit down and look at our entire processes. Is previously what we were doing is we manufacture overseas. We do use a mom and pop factory. So it's a small family owned and operated factory to produce all of our goods. And what we do is we don't actually manufacture any of our own fabric. So although we want specific colors for different collections, we lean towards taking what's already been produced and what would be considered stock fabric or leftover fabric. And then we actually take that and repurpose it for our goods. So with that being said, an issue is if a product is very well loved, it's very hard to bring that color back because it's only available so long as the stock fabric is available. But doing that will allow us to ensure that we are not adding to the further pollution. We're not adding to the further excess fabric creation that exists already in China. Instead, we're just taking the fabric that already exists, repurposing it for our goods. And then on top of that, we order very small batches at a time, which means we sell out quicker and people might be waiting, or consumers are waiting a little bit longer to receive their products or to be able to buy again. But the good thing about that is, unlike bigger retailers that would be considered as those fast fashion companies that just produce hundreds of thousands of units on something that's currently trending right now, and then whatever's left, they just sell it off clearance or they burn it. We instead design very tight collections and only manufacture a very small quantity of goods that we know will sell out in the next couple of months, so that we're not holding any stock, and then focus on the next round at a time. So with that, the hope is that we could be as sustainable as possible, and that we can be more of a mindfully made, yet still fashionable and trendy company, but not cause any further disruption to the industry or to the environment while we're operating. Something else that we've currently implemented is we actually partnered with a US-based company called Better Packaging Company. And if you're familiar with their products, all of their bags are 100% compostable. And so they're made of different products, and that the idea is you can actually take the bag, plant it, and within 6 months it'll be fully decomposed. So that's great. And so we've actually just switched all of our poly bags that we wrap the garments in to Better Packaging Company, as well as our shipping bags. So just trying to take the small steps that we can now, and still fitting within our margins and our budgets to be able to do that. But I would say the ultimate dream would be to be a B Corp company.
Thank you, Misha. And for those of you that are not familiar with the B Corp certification, a certified B Corp company, it's a new kind of business that balances purpose and profit. They are legally required to consider the impact of their decisions on their workers, customers, suppliers, community, and environment. So after the conference, please feel free to check out B Corp because it is a brilliant certification. It's up and coming, and it really does everything that we want businesses to do. So Jane, when you're ready, we'd love to hear from you.
Well, the aim of me starting the Organically Epic dental line, I don't know what we'd call it. We used to distribute other brands. So that's kind of where I learned what I know now, because I came into it being made redundant from 15 years working in banking in London when I had my first child. So I knew nothing. So I distributed and we grew with that, but we were making other people money, and we were very successful at it, and we made them award-winning in the UK. And I just kind of started really looking at dental and really looking at what was available for people that wanted dental that worked. Because a lot of the natural dental products, they're lovely, but for me, they didn't work how I would expect a dental product to work. So the range that we have now, we have toothbrushes and floss and tongue cleaners and things like that. That was made to support a toothpaste, and that was made to support a mouthwash and all of the ingredient-based products. But much like how Anna was told in the beginning, no, you can't do that. No, just be nice and stick over here and just stay in that lane. I spoke to a lot of industry leaders and a lot of formulators and people in the know. 3 years ago in March, I started this crusade of a certified organic toothpaste, and I was told it can't be done. The way you want to do it, it cannot be done. There are too many powders in toothpaste. There's too many, you can have it natural, but you wouldn't be able to have it organic. And I launched organic toothpaste. Hopefully in January, it's going through the testing process now. And I know now why people were putting me off, because it's been bloody hard. But to get to this point is amazing. It's been years of tears because I wanted something that worked as a toothpaste, that tasted like a toothpaste, that middle market would want, and then could move over into the sustainability realm. I wanted a certain type of packaging that's taken a long time. And there's only one toothpaste manufacturer in the UK, and they knew nothing about natural and nothing about organic. So it's been a massive learning curve of me, the manufacturer, the packaging, the design, working with the Soil Association to make sure everything's tip top, the Vegan Society, cruelty-free, everything. And it's been all encompassing. And now we're just about to launch it. And the whole idea of having that product will hopefully, help us scale a little bit more, because we are very small. And I want to be able to launch children's toothpaste, mouthwashes, all of that sort of stuff, but not to have 10 of one item. Our manufacturer's like, oh, well, all you've got to do with this toothpaste is change one ingredient, and then you've got another one. It's like, no, I want a core capsule range there. And I'm also trained in making skincare. So I want to be able to launch skincare as well, and to have, you know, somewhere that people can go for sustainable products that work really well. So that's the idea of where the business is going. But I've obviously, you know, I haven't had any investments. I am doing this on my own. So it's been a very expensive, interesting learning curve. And whilst I'm super proud of myself for that, it's been really hard. But that's where the business is going. And personally, I want to be able to delve a bit deeper. You know, I love researching ingredients. That's kind of where my passion is. I think, you know, Anna, what you're doing with repurposing everything is just amazing. And that's a real trend at the moment as well. And I'm sure that you've kind of brought that to the forefront, most definitely. I feel that everybody's talking about upcircle at the minute, which is great. And, you know, I want to be able to have lots of ingredient-based products, basically, but that obviously costs money. But that's where we're going. And, you know, also looking at the environmental impact of packaging is really interesting, and what you can do to make your entire business sustainable. You know, that we're certainly well off of whole B Corp status and all that sort of stuff, Misha. We're nowhere near that. But it's, as I say, it's a spectrum. And I feel that as long as brands have it on their radar and that they're trying to be better, and they're actually proven to be working to be better, and we've all got to listen to our customers and what our customers want, people that are buying our products. You know, their ideas as well can help us grow and move, because we don't know everything, and it's good to listen to others. But yeah, the people, same as with Anna, the people that are in the know or supposedly in the know, I've ignored all of that and just gone for it, because, you know, if you see something and you see that it's going to work, I think it's going to work, basically. If you've got the passion for it and the drive to make it happen, go for it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jane. Anna, would you like to add to that and share your goals for the future?
Sure. Very interestingly, both Misha and Jane have mentioned things that I was planning to talk about as well. B Corp, oh my goodness, we're in that process. What a process it is. An amazing goal to have. So yeah, I'm striving for that same achievement in the long run. And Jane mentioned packaging, which is one of my biggest frustrations in my industry. So I think in terms of, yeah, the progression of my industry that I would like to see, that I personally don't have control over, that would be innovation in packaging. It can be quite hard when you're a brand, and particularly a sustainable brand. Your customers' expectations are unbelievably high. They expect you to be absolutely everything all the time. And, you know, I'm responsible for my formulations, my communication, the aesthetic, like pretty much everything. But what I don't do is manufacture packaging. So I am held back by what is available. I am responsible for making sure that I'm up to date on the latest innovations, and that I'm open to always refining my products. I think that's important, particularly with sustainably minded businesses, not just with packaging, but also with ingredients. You know, crops can fail when you're using organic ingredients. You might have been able to use vanilla in 2015, but in 2020, that might not be a sustainable option anymore. So you can never view your products as finished. You have to constantly be willing to allow them to evolve and to stay as sustainable today as they were 5 years ago. But yeah, packaging is a bit of a nightmare for us. Yeah, and you think of simple, easy fixes where possible, but if affordable, more sustainable packaging could be brought into my industry. That is most definitely something that I would like to see in the coming years. In terms of my personal goals for the brand, new product development is one of the things that excites me most about being a brand founder. I want to have a portfolio of products that can answer absolutely any skincare need. And I also want to expand our repurposed ingredient portfolio. So at the minute, we repurpose 10 different natural ingredients into our formulations, but we try to keep an eyes open, always curious kind of approach. You never know when inspiration can strike. And one of the phrases that we often use is that waste is a failure of imagination. So one of our premises is a railway arch, for example, and all of the other archways are housed by florists. So I noticed that every Monday they throw away all the flowers that they haven't sold in the previous week. So at the moment I'm developing a whole range of bath products that are made with the petals that I've taken from those flowers that they're discarding. So I think, again, you know, always staying curious and looking out there for what could be next for the products that I'm making. The second thing would be, as again has been mentioned in this conversation already earlier today, making sustainable choices more mainstream, which is a very, very difficult thing to do. And of course, price point is a huge factor in that. But when we started out, I think, particularly when we made that decision to put the eco part of our business right at the front and center, we incorrectly assumed that we were only going to have customers that were eco-minded. And actually, we were selling ourselves short. What I think that we have now realized is that there are three main boxes as a brand that we need to tick in order to broaden our appeal and really, really appeal to the masses. So the first of those is the ethics. You know, is this a brand that's doing good in the world? The second is the performance of the products. You know, you're buying a moisturizer because you want to hydrate your skin. It doesn't matter how eco it is if it doesn't fundamentally do that for you. It's redundant. And the third thing would be the aesthetics. In beauty, people want a soap or a hand wash that's going to look pretty in their bathroom. You want influencers who are going to want to shout about it on their Instagram, and people who are going to want to tell their friends about it because it looks great. So long as you can tick those three boxes, all of a sudden you are massively broadening out your appeal. So that's something that we have worked on, and I would like to think that hopefully we're achieving that. And I guess, yeah, the final thing would be how our ethos can really challenge people's perceptions. I would like Upcircle to serve as proof that we need to rethink our attitudes. You know, do we really actually need to be throwing away the things that we're choosing to throw away? Why are we considering them as waste? And the way that we're doing that is by proving them as high-performing skincare ingredients that perform as well or better than fresh new ingredients. So an awful lot of goals, lots of things to try to achieve, but yeah, ready to take on the challenge, I guess.
So brilliant. And I love the innovative thought process behind that petal idea. All of us got the biggest grin because we were just like, wow, how brilliant.
Why not, right?
Are they for that? Yeah, totally makes sense. And I look forward to the day where that's online and I'm able to purchase some of that for myself.
Thank you. Thank you.
Usman, whenever you're ready, would you like to talk about your future goals and maybe add your 2 cents to what the other speakers have said?
Sure, yeah. I'll start by saying where they were discussing like the processes of processing their stuff. Our goal is to provide that the building, so the main hub where that processing happens, and making sure that that hub is sustainable. So that building, you know, uses less energy, it uses more sunlight, it's using a lot of solar energy. Maybe we have influence on how your waste is being managed and stuff. So that's where we come in from an engineer's perspective. And our goal is to have as much influence as possible on the structures that provide education and manufacturing and other stuff, hospitals, schools. We are very keen pretty soon on coming up with design models that will provide those solutions. So from one house to 2 houses to a town to a village, and we to go as big as city would be, you know, with buildings and sustainable solutions where the environment, the society, and the economy can all benefit. So we're basically, in a nutshell, we just want to provide that infrastructure that would drive the development of everything else, like my fellow panelists, businesses, and everything else. And that's where we want to get to very soon.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Montserrat.
Thank you. Yes, well, I have like a set of goals, and some of them are personal and some of them are collective. So from a personal point of view, of course, I want to make the most out of this PhD experience and take this opportunity to visualize the problems of the Global South that are still not visible enough. I think that when you move around the climate change law international discussion, the groups, the way they have formed, have made more visible some problems than others. And I think there's still this sort of country, like my country, like Chile, Peru, Colombia, are countries with an extractivist economy, a neoliberal model, where our natural resources are still being, taken over by these foreign companies. And so we don't have this need to mitigate as high as the global north countries, but we have problems with adaptation, and that hasn't been still recognized, not even in the international community, but also at the national level. It's crazy how the government is still failing to see that, because of course you have the discussion between development, economic growth, and sustainability, which Osman was relating recently. So this is like my personal goal for the 2 years that I still have remaining in the PhD, and I'm lucky to be able to bring this into the international sphere as well. And then as collective goals, I have different ones. As a member and representative of civil society and academia, as we are facing the constitutional reform, we are working very hard to make this new constitution a constitution, like eco-constitution. That's the way we call it. Trying to change the model, and we need to change many things in order for that to be like this. But one thing that is very, very relevant is that necessary shift towards smaller businesses and not just big extractivist companies taking, the forest and all of that. Like, we need to one way that one step that is very necessary for us is to turn our economy into a more sophisticated economy, so it's not just based on extractivism. And then on my work, I also have this like collective goal of working more with local governments. It's something that we are doing now with some colleagues, co-workers from the engineer sector as well. I'm just like the lawyer there. They're the ones doing like everything, but I do like working with them, because I think that local governments are very important for small businesses and for consumers as well, because they are the ones able to actually create the incentives at a small level. As I mentioned, I think that central government is more like a problem for this sort of businesses or this sort of options, while local governments, they just, through associativity, for instance, they can become a relevant actor and then create this sort of like cooperatives sort of schemes for different actions. Like, we're working now with renewables and trying to make every city hall in the country able to generate their own energies. And that's something that we are working on now. Probably by the end of the year, we'll have some news to see if we manage to turn regulation to our favor, because at the end, it's all my job there is just influence regulation, basically. So a lot of ideas, a lot of plans, but just trying to influence regulation in many ways, as creating ideas like this and many others to actually succeed and flow more easily, not just find problems.
Brilliant, thank you so much. So we have one last formal prompt, and I'm gonna ask speakers to try to aim for about a minute in response time, so that we can get as many delegate questions in as possible and stay on time. I know all of you probably want to go outside or enjoy your Saturday. So we will begin, and the next final question from me is what do you think consumers and people going into the workplace can do to help growth of businesses and initiatives like yours? And if you're inspired to tack on a little bit of advice for young professionals or students, potentially even young entrepreneurs, who are curious to persevere careers in your industries, maybe you could do that as well. But I know with a minute time constraint, you may not be able to, but we'll start with Misha.
Awesome. So if I could just like talk to my customers and like say one thing, it would be social media is very misleading. You can look at a brand and they can do social media very well and have over 100,000 followers. That does not mean that they're a large corporation with a lot of money that have endless resources at their disposal. It's important to know when you're engaging with a brand, do a little bit of research. You can even click on their about page on their website, easy as that, and they'll tell you. And it's just being understanding of small businesses. Jane said it earlier, you can't do everything. And if you do everything and you are 100% sustainable, then they think like, oh, I don't agree with everything that you do. And so it's just knowing that, like I would speak for myself and say, Namasthetics wants to be a sustainable brand. We are doing what we can, but we are also limited by money, by technology available to us, by so many different constraints, by trying to stay true to our ethos of being accessible and affordable, that we can't do everything. But you'll know whether or not a brand has good intentions. Some bigger corporations will say, oh, we want to be sustainable, and they're not, and they use it as a marketing ploy. And you can typically see that if you really look at a company. But if you know that a company is trying, be understanding, when you're sending them a DM or you're criticizing them or you're commenting that like, oh, that this, why is the bag recycled plastic? Why don't you just use, a canvas bag instead of plastic altogether? And it's like, okay, thank you. Like, we'll definitely consider it, but it's just being mindful when you're talking to a company, because, we're all trying to do the best that we can. And I like to believe that most companies are trying to do the best that they can. And it's just being understanding of a small business that our limitations are far greater than that of a larger corporation. Given we have different pain points, it is harder to change things in a larger corporation. We, as a small business, are able to pivot a lot faster, which is a blessing as well. But, we are still limited as to what we can do. So just try and be understanding. We're all people. We all care. And like those messages hurt. At the end of the day, when you're sending a DM, you're still talking to a real human. So just be mindful of that and treat each other as human beings, first and foremost. To anyone who's looking to start a business, I would just say, it's been, Anna had mentioned it earlier as well, and it's been harped on, but if people will tell you that you can't do it, they'll say other people are already doing it, or that's a bad idea. If you truly believe that you can carve, even if it's just a really small part of the consumer base out for yourself, go for it. If you're having the problem or you want to see this product made, chances are in this large world that we live in, there is going to be someone else who wants to see that product as well, and people who are going to be really aligned with your vision and support you. Not every company has to be a multi-million-dollar business in order to be successful. There's different levels of success, and it's like, if you're driven to do something good in the world and you have that calling, people are always going to tell you that you can't do it. Oftentimes it's because they probably tried and failed themselves, and we're human, and that's all right, but just try. Worst case is you fail, but at least you're learning something from it, and so you'll know better next time. I'm sorry.
No, I'm inspired. Yeah, Jane, whenever you're ready. Thank you, Misha.
Everything that Misha said, what she said. Social media is a blessing and a curse for all of us. It puts us, we're all the faces of what we're doing, so it puts us at the forefront. And unfortunately, because we label ourselves as sustainable, I say that in brackets just because that is such a large spectrum, sustainable brands that are trying to do better and be better, and we have a vision of contributing to the world and making it better. We're held at a massive level compared to bigger businesses. If bigger businesses mess up, people just go, yeah, they expect it. If we do something, some people have a real problem with our floss, that it's not biodegradable. And there's reasons for that. First of all, the biodegradable ones are rubbish. and they have a real issue with it, because there are all of us will have competitors and peers who are saying and doing things where we're a bit like, yeah, you're not being truthful. Oh, that's not really right. Okay, that's great. But because they're out there saying, well, we can offer this and it does all of this, people then come to us and goes, well, does yours do that? No, because theirs doesn't really, like, we can't go because theirs doesn't really do that either. So we're all held to such a high level, and it makes us look rubbish. It makes us look like we're really not trying, but we're all trying. So that would be my long, short advice to people. If you can see that a brand is willing to do better, and if they're leading with their heart and with honesty, all of our social media pages will be so honest. We'll be leading with our heart. We will be talking about various environmental issues. We'll be talking about socioeconomic issues. It's all encompassing. We don't just stick with what we're doing. We talk about social issues that are going on at the time as well and fit that in. So it's basically trying to get people to understand that we are human, long and short of that. With social media, again, if people can't buy our products, there is so much weight in sharing something, talking about something, saying, oh, I've just seen this brand, to a friend that says they need something, speaking to us as well, talking to us. We're here, we're available on DMs, we're available on email, talking to us about what they would like to see, maybe, or feedback. Nice feedback, obviously. If you do have a problem with something, you've got a problem with it, but there's a nice way of doing it. The customer isn't always right, but they deserve to be heard. I'm very much of that sort of mindset. Not that I will get into an argument with any customer about it, because we've all got to be very careful, but it's getting people to understand that we're trying to do our best, basically. My advice for anyone starting out, again, what Misha said, go for it if you think it's a good idea. If you're like, well, there's nothing out there that I would buy that's like that, what about that? There will be customers, there will be people that come to you, there will be people that buy into you, people buy from people. If somebody likes your face, likes what you're saying, likes the tone of your voice, they will buy from you. Your product could be something completely different than what you're actually selling, but if they like you and they buy into what you're saying, they will buy it. There is a market for everything. And when you are starting out as well, cash is tight. Cash is so tight for people when they start. So sign up to every free course that you can, every PR course, every marketing course, every website course. Pull your friends, pull the talent of your mates, give them free product, give them free advice, give them something back, but use everything that you can tightly, and support your friends as well in what they're doing. Because everyone around me is like, everyone has a vision, everyone has an idea, and everyone wants to start a business and do something. So support people around you as well, and they will support you. That would be my advice. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jane. Anna, what do you think?
Right, okay, well, I've got something. I don't think it's going to be that necessarily popular with consumers, because it doesn't exactly make the purchasing decision process any clearer, but it is a genuine frustration given our circular economy ethos that we have faced. And so that would be to look beyond certification. We are trying to challenge certification bodies to rethink their criteria given what we are doing. So I'll give a kind of concrete example. We are not eligible for organic certification for the vast majority of our products because they are sourced from so many different locations. And so despite the fact that the ingredients are organic and our processes and the end product actually ethical than most of the certification, we can't get it. So in a way, we're being penalized for the efforts that we are going to in order to be sustainable. And that's highly frustrating. Granted, those certification bodies are kind of now aware of that issue, and they do support us from a wider perspective as a brand. But it's very frustrating that I hear endlessly every single day, why aren't you certified? Why aren't you certified? Why aren't you certified? Most certifications cost a hell of a lot of money to even apply for, and then it's a hell of a lot of money every single year to renew that certification for every single product, by the way. It's not just an overall thing. And the other thing, as I've mentioned, is, yeah, we actually are organic, but I would have to get hundreds of cafes to also pay the price to be certified, and they are never going to do that. So just ask the question of the brand. As Misha mentioned, we're people behind the DMs. We're happy to help. If we've got something to be proud of, we're going to shout about it. So ask us, hey, look, are you organic? Yes, we're organic. And as Jane mentioned earlier, another thing is clays can't be organic. They grow from the earth. So if you don't know something, don't assume the worst. Just ask the question, and we will happily answer it. Oh, and advice. Don't take on everyone's advice. Have the strength of conviction to go it alone. You know your idea better than anyone else does. So don't be afraid to offend people. Don't be afraid to have people hate your product. Go for it. Don't be pulled in a million different directions by taking on every single one of everyone's advice. Listen to it, but you don't have to take it on board. That's my advice.
Love that advice. One of my favorite mottos that I have plastered all over my walls are blinders up. Don't look left, don't look right, look forward, and you know it, you got it. Thank you, Anna. Usman, what are your thoughts?
Hi, I'll try and keep this short. So I think the first piece of advice is make more sustainable choices, like buy products that last longer. We all have something that we're passionate about, something we're really good at. Try and find a way of solving a problem with that passion or with that skill that you have. That's how most businesses come up. It's, you know, someone with a very good idea of something they're really good at. They identify a problem and they figure out how to solve it, and that's the business. As long as it's something that you could wake up at 3 a.m. and work on, then you are in the right business. It's something that you really are passionate about. I guess all of you can relate. And finally, like if you read through books about successful people, you'd agree that consistently they were all rejected at some point or told that it will not work. But eventually the reason why they got to the point where they wrote that book is because they were successful. So don't listen to people. As long as you've got that passion, just remain focused, try stuff. Not everything will work. So you'll reach, you know, brick walls, just turn around, find another way. You will find your way, but just as long as you've got that passion, just remain focused and it will work. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you so much, Usman. And even with the beginning this conference, the team and I heard so many times, every speaker, every sponsor, we would reach out to hundreds of people and no, it'll never work. There's really no use in this conversation. So just, it really is really valuable advice. Thank you. Montserrat?
Yes, I can't give advice on how to start a business because it's not my field, but I am a consumer, and there's something that I always share when I give lectures to students, etc. And it's to remember that options are options when they are options. So what I mean by that is that many times, especially my students, like which they are a bit younger than me, they are like, I can't have children because of the environment. I have to get this, and it has to be with all of these labels. Like, relax. There are places where this conversation is not even happening because these options are not even available. So if there's people from those places, just like make the most that you can, and do not compare yourself and do not try to be like the perfect consumer. The same, just too many choices makes us unhappy. So when you find a company or a product that fits you, that it makes sense to you, research a bit more. Like Anna said, go beyond certification. Just see if you think they treat well the people who they work with, if they care about the things that you care, and just stay there, because otherwise you're going to be like overwhelmed by the options and you're going to be just going insane. And for people from my field, for academics or people who are students who are thinking about maybe going into academia or maybe practicing law in a different manner, just go for it. I think that people from developing countries, academics from developing countries, we have like an obligation to make our work related to the development of the country. That applies to everybody. So just as Yusman was saying, just it's not just solving a problem and making it into a business. If you don't have that vision, you also can choose how to relate to your work environment, who is going to hire you, and what are you going to do with your life and your time, because where your attention goes, that grows basically. So just be mindful of your energy, of your time, of your money as a consumer. Just make good choices, because that energy cycle is very powerful, I would say. So just take care of that. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much, everyone. That was really lovely. I wanted to also add something that I've recently stumbled upon in regards to what consumers can do, and pretty much all of you touched on it. But if you have a favorite company or brand and they're not doing these sustainable things, you don't need to necessarily boycott them, but you have a voice that they want to hear, and feedback, especially positive, is welcome. And you can say, I want to start to see sustainable things from you. And the more of us that do that, the more likely these big corporations that need to be making these shifts may do so. So I encourage all of you to do that. And on that note, we're going to open up the floor to delegate questions. So if you would like to verbally ask something, please pop your blue hand up, and we will unmute you, and you can ask all of the panelists, or you can specify who you'd like to hear from. And if you're not comfortable verbally asking, please pop it in the chat. Hey, Jonathan, whenever you're ready.
Hey, this is Jonathan. I'm calling in from Atlanta in the US. First and foremost, it was great that the CLERB was able to bring all you guys together from diverse backgrounds and with a diverse disciplines and products. I'm pretty excited now that I know or have learned about a lot of your brands, continue following your success and hopefully support in the future. But I had a question specifically for Usman. I come from a very similar background where I currently work for a very large, heavy civil infrastructure development company. And we work on these mega billion-dollar projects. And the reality of it is it comes down a lot of the times to the bottom line is the cost and the schedule of these products. But given the breadth of your experience, having worked in these experiences and these projects in the past, and now pivoting to doing the really great work you do now, if there's any lessons learned you have that could potentially be brought back to these large, heavy infrastructure projects, given your perspective in both fields now.
Sure, yeah, thanks, Jonathan. That's a really interesting question. I think the thing is with the big civil engineering companies, in relation to, I think, what Misha said, sustainability is expensive or can be expensive. And it's the same in terms of construction. But if you're a big corporation, then you can afford to invest in those solutions. And it is a healthier way of building. It provides a healthier environment for the people occupying that building. And I think if they could sort of incorporate more sustainable engineering solutions, like the energy used, how they manage their waste, even how they control their travel. Because if you travel, you're sort of burning fuel on that plane, and it is affecting the environment in one way. If you're ordering one box a week, you could optimize that. You know, there's a lot of things that you could do as a big corporation to contribute towards sustainability. So I think with them, the key thing might be hiring a sustainability director or manager, because many companies do not have a sustainability rep who focuses more on how the company is managing their sustainability in terms of what they build and how they work. And you'd be interested, I'm not sure what company you work for, but maybe they don't even have that person, and have a sustainability team and drill in that the importance of sustainability in the engineers and the builders, and they can afford to invest in this technology because there's so many cool things out there, and a lot of research that's been done, and it's just bringing that in and stopping, cutting down like the usual ways of building and just introducing more sustainable ways of building. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you, Usman. And yeah, just to speak to that quickly from an academic development background, which is where I come from, it becomes very apparent when you're entering the workforce that even in these big corporations, the people that are behind corporate social responsibility are all commerce graduates with finance and, accountant backgrounds. So I completely agree with that. Sustainability experts and social scientists should be working with engineers and companies so that the change that we all want to see is actually happening in the way that it should actually be happening, not just for a PR benefit or gain. So just a little bit of a spoiler, our 2021 conference is themed around this exactly, and corporate social responsibility. So just for you all to know, to stay tuned for that. We do have another question. So Nadia, I will allow you to talk whenever you are ready.
Hi guys. Thank you for that really, really insightful panel session. I really enjoyed it. My question again is for Usman. Yeah, it's really cool that you do all your expertise is in consultancy for like engineers and architects in Africa, and how to guide them to become more sustainable. And I guess with all this, the aim is to achieve infrastructural development in Africa, right? To improve people's livelihoods there. But then my question is framed around the concept of a just transition, because I know that, have you ever come across people challenging what your work, saying that, all these first world countries, they developed during the industrial, with all these industrial tools that weren't sustainable, and they achieved growth so quickly. But now with the sustainability conversation in place, people are challenging growth. And like, how do you help countries in Africa improve their livelihoods with that in mind, now that there's like this underlying inequality in their growth trajectory, with like the topic of sustainability possibly impeding that progress, if you get what I mean? Does it make sense to you, what I'm saying? I'm not sure if it's clear enough.
I think I'll do my best. So the main, like I said before in the discussion, there's one of the major challenges is awareness. And you have so many people used to working a certain way and building a certain way and designing a certain way. And one of the biggest challenges is getting them to change, getting them to adapt to new ways of building. And like you said, in Europe, in America, they've built, they have all these nice buildings and they've developed themselves. But the awareness of sustainability was not, I don't think it even existed when they were just taking stuff and chopping off trees and building cities and building towns. But now that we've come to a point where we're actually seeing the impact of our development on the environment, like I said, there's many things happening. There's some places that are, have gone really dry. There's some places that have major floods, and there's all these hurricanes and all of these effects. We're losing many animals. So many different animals are going extinct. So there's a lot of attention and focus now on sustainability. And we've got so many conferences and so many workshops that go on. My only concern is most of these workshops, they attend the workshop, but they don't really take that back and start implementing the solutions. That's one of the major things. So I think it is challenging, but just having that influence, even if you influence one government official or one local authority official, it does make a big difference. Like Montserrat was saying, the local government have to buy in. They have to accept your project, because if they don't, it's not going to happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you need the buy-in from them, and instead of forcing it, maybe just showing them a bit about the impacts and how it could improve their lives, and how you can develop your town and you can develop your city, but you just have to make sure that it's something that will, you realize the benefits, the real benefits of that development. A building in Africa doesn't have to look like a building in London, because there's different, but they're not, you don't have the same materials. There's a lot of clay in, West Africa, for example. Clay has cooling properties where you won't need an air conditioner, because it actually keeps the building cool when it's really hot. And when it's cold, it keeps it warm. So, and in Africa, it's mainly warm. So you have a natural cooling system that saves you energy. So you don't need to build a big, it doesn't have to be built like it's built in London. So using your knowledge as an engineer, but then relating it to what materials you have in that area also does make a big difference. So it's just engineering, but with an open mind. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. So we're definitely past time, but we do have one more question. Do you guys have to run, or do you mind answering this final question? Yeah, everyone's okay? Okay, brilliant. So it's coming from Malika, and she said, it's amazing to hear from the business owners on the panel about sustainability and organic eco-conscious products. Hats off to them. But another part of sustainability is investing in communities in the global south who predominantly produce the primary resources that our societies consume. Do any of these businesses do this? And I also want to extend this question to Montserrat, who you might be able to talk about your perspective on this from a legal perspective, and the importance and significance your thoughts may be on businesses in the West or in first world countries doing this. So we can start with Montserrat.
Yes, well, it's a major problem. And the first step is, I think, like the way I see it or the way I face it, there are like two approaches that should work simultaneously. So first, influencing on governments and regulations in order to get out of these extractivist models, because the regulation is the one that's behind all of this. The way you regulate fisheries, for instance, with the system of grandfathering, which means that prior owners of licenses to fish have a special right to the new licenses. So that creates larger and larger businesses. So influencing regulation is very important at the national level, at the places where these extractivist economies are taking place. And then the other way that is also at a national level, when you are in the global south or when you are in one of these economies, is trying to work with what you have. So I try to do both, like on one of my work as an academic is influencing regulation, but in the meantime, of course, I try to work with what we have, and we try to just move away from what the government or the current regulation has built as a framework for us, and just be creative and just start pretending that you have a broad framework where you can actually, for instance, have cooperative associativity, or you can have this sort of economy that is more refined, these products. And I see a lot of people in my country, at least, trying to that. They also can influence regulation. So at the end, it's like a circle, like the energy project that I was telling you about in the Patagonia. Now we, like with all the meetings that we had with the Ministry for Energy, we could present to them the problem and the solution, and they took it and they changed the regulation, and now they're local governments and cooperatives are going to be able to engage more easily into this energy sector. And then in the global north, if you're a consumer or a business owner in the global north, just try to know where your sources are coming from, where your resources are coming for. There are great examples, like for instance, the coffee makers from Germany. I understand they only they have this agreement with Costa Rica, and so you know that every coffee that comes from Costa Rica is fair trade, because it's been the governments have been taking care of this agreement as well. So it's not just a voluntary scheme. Whilst you don't know what's happening in Colombia, it could be a small farm, but you really have less of a possibility. So consider also like the important role that governments have in this, and you as consumers are also citizens, and you as entrepreneurs are also very important and a very important voice, and you go to your regulator and tell them what is wrong with the regulation, that it's stopping you from doing more, so I would say that's the way I approach it.
Thank you so much. For those of you that have businesses, would you like to respond to this question and your thoughts? We can start with Misha.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself there. So what we've done, so we manufacture in China as Namasthetics. So originally when we started drop shipping, we were receiving products primarily from China again, with a few other countries in the mix. But then within 6 months into our business, we started manufacturing there. What we chose to do, and we're very mindful, is my co-founder, he actually traveled to China right off the bat to actually visit factories to see what their working conditions were like, how our factory workers treated, and so forth. And what we decided right away is that we didn't want to further add to any kind of pollution or any kind of issues already surrounding the labor force. So sorry, I have the sniffles right now. I promise it's not COVID. So we ended up working with the factory. So there was one factory that we worked with for a couple of months, and we built a very close relationship with an agent or a rep who worked there. And so he was our primary point of contact. We would provide our orders to him. He would ensure that they would get fulfilled. About 6 months into that process, so now a year into our business, we had actually made the pivot to help support Mark, who is our primary manufacturer now, to actually leave his post as an agent at this much larger factory to open his own manufacturing and sampling warehouse with his family. So both of his parents were actually in the textile and women's clothing market for several years, so they're very well versed. And him and his fiance decided that they wanted to change their socioeconomic status, which is typically harder to do in China, and that they wanted to take the risk to open their own warehousing as Namasthetics as their biggest client. And so we've now been working together in this setup for about 3 years, and Mark is able to employ his family and friends. This is another reason that we don't do large quantities in our orders. We always stick to what can be done within the people that we have, because instead of switching back and going to a bigger factory that can have a much faster turnaround time and produce a higher quantity of goods, we would rather know that we're working with another family-owned and operated business. We have more of a control, although we don't own the factory and we have no say in the way that they function. We have more control over our manufacturing process because it's not just a business relationship, it's more like family. We talk every single day. We know exactly what's going on in their lives, just as they know what's going on with our business, and we're completely transparent with one another, which actually helps us and allows us to thrive as a business because we're able to have better insight. We're not just speaking an agent, not just Ross, but rather we've been able to build a relationship without actually having to open our own warehouse. So that's been really great and something that we're super proud of. My co-founder and I actually went to China last year in 2019 to visit, just to see what their working conditions were like. And it's amazing to see that when my co-founder had originally visited Mark, 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, I guess. He was living in a small 1-bedroom apartment with his fiance and his parents. And since then, since we've been able to work together to help him open his own warehouse, they have their own warehouse now. He has his own home with his fiance, still close to his parents, but able to live separately. And it's awesome for us just to see how we're able to impact the lives of people around the world. A lot of times companies are asked, especially in North America, what they're doing to help bring manufacturing back to home or to provide jobs in our countries that we're founded in, which we feel strongly about, but we also believe as North Americans, we are already quite privileged, and there's a lot of opportunity here, especially opportunity to create. So we strive to work with different people around the world to offer jobs and work and different kind of partnerships that may not have been as easily available.
Thank you so much, Misha. Jane, would you like to add your thoughts on this?
Yes. The products that we have now are also made in China, and we did a similar thing, whereas I didn't go over there, first of all. I have friends that live in China that speak the language. They went to go and visit our manufacturer. It took me a year to partner with our manufacturer after speaking to, I think it was like 15 other ones that couldn't provide the evidence that I was asking for and all these claims they were making. And that was partly why I started the business, because the products that we have now, there's a lot of unfounded claims of biodegradability and compostability. And when you actually delve a bit deeper, it's not actually true. And there's lots of manufacturers, especially in China. Now, whilst China's not the Wild West it used to be, there are obviously lots of socioeconomic issues going on there at the minute and other things. It's not as deep and dark as it used to be because of regulation. And that's a lot to do with our businesses going in and demanding it, basically. So it took us a long, long time to partner with our manufacturer, and their business has grown with ours, which is wonderful. And we have a really, really tight relationship with them where I can message them anytime, any day. They can be on the phone. They are just amazing. Any regulation I want, any answer, any question, you know, we talk a lot about hours that their workers work, what they're paid, how they're paid, what breaks they have, you know, all of this sort of stuff. I ask every six to 12 months because things can change, and I expect the paperwork to back that up. And we had, before we obviously started manufacturing with them, I said we had our friend go and speak to them and walk around the facility, go to all the different parts, speak to employees, just for our own peace of mind. It's so far away. I couldn't go. I have 2 small children, so that would have been too much at the time. So we partner with them, and then it's making sure that we can grow ethically. So explaining that experience and explaining why we chose to manufacture in China is a lot of the education that goes on with our customers, because there is an assumption, oh, you get that in China. And people don't realize they can go into all these zero waste shops and all of the stuff they're looking at is made in China, because that's where the abundance of the material is. We make sure that the bamboo forests that we harvest from are FSC. We make sure that they're only harvested once or twice a year. We make sure that the bamboo is then replanted and grown. There's so much that goes into the background of everything. And I feel that there's probably a lot of brands that don't do that, that just go in for the quick win, and that you will see that by the price of their product, unfortunately, a lot of the time. When we decided to do the toothpaste, which actually coincidentally came before all of the other products, I wanted to make sure that we knew, you know, from seed to source, from source to shelf and all of that sort of stuff. I wanted to make sure that we knew where everything was coming from, what the regulations were. We have a couple of ingredients in our toothpaste that come from India. So we were making sure that people were paid properly, how it was sourced, was it really organic? It's making sure that they have all the paperwork to back it up and delving deeper. It takes a lot of time. It takes an awful lot of time. And because you're going over these time zones, it can take weeks to get answers. It can, you know, and you feel I am ever worse on, because I will continue and continue and continue, and they can't get away from me, because I'm quite persistent with it, because I want something to be what people are saying it is. I want our product to be what we're saying it is. You know, I don't want, you know, I would love to think that we're going to be like this huge brand, and I don't want in 5 to 10 years some to be able to somebody to be able to pick apart my product, my ethics, anything I've ever said on social media. So you've got to make sure that it's watertight. Now, with other ingredients that we will use in the future, you know, the dream is to be able to invest in local villages and local schools where you are taking that ingredient and giving it back, because there is a real issue with obviously us as white people going into marginalized communities and just taking and just taking, which is what a lot of people do have, especially when you're talking about natural and organic as well. You can't take without replenishing, you can't take without giving back. So that is a core part of what my values are and my values as a business. So yeah, I hope that answers the question as well. So.
Definitely, thank you so much. Anna, did you want to add your 2 cents?
Yeah, I can say something very brief, I suppose, which is like, I guess making sure that your ingredients are fair trade is kind of the entry level requirement. What's specific for us is that a lot of the ingredients that we're using, because they are byproducts, they actually create a whole new revenue stream for the grower. So that's one way in which we're helping, the community is actually responsible for farming our ingredients. So take date seeds, for example. We use date seed extract in one of our very new products, which is the body cream. Those seeds are a byproduct. They have no use. They are discarded by the growers, and we source them in Israel. So by finding a way to turn that into a valuable ingredient, we then buy that. So we're buying something that previously had no value. So in that sense, and I guess that's one of the beauties of a circular economy ethos, right? It's all about giving back. It's all about keeping things in use and continually giving back. Same with argan shells. A lot of that is from Morocco, run by women's cooperatives that are managed at varying levels of ethical responsibility. So of course we have to be aware of that. It's a very, very fast growing and in high demand ingredient, which comes with a lot of dangers. But the shells, the kernels are not used. So if we can find a way to want to make that desirable and therefore pay for it, then that benefits the communities that are involved in the harvesting, growing, farming of those ingredients. Beyond that, from a wider brand perspective, it's very important to us that we are seen as a brand who always give back. That so far has been largely with more local issues, but we built in charitable donations to our actual products, which, as Jane mentioned earlier, when you're trying to be an accessible, sustainable brand, is not easy to do because our margins are pinched as it is, but we do it because it's so important. So we've built donations to places like Amazon Frontlines, Rainforest Alliance into every single sale of our products. So yeah, again, I won't say any more. I hope that answers the question.
Definitely, and Malika says amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. So on that note, we're just going to hear from Este, who's one of our executive committee members. She's going to thank you all for your time, and then we will conclude.
Thank you, Jacqueline, for giving me the floor, and a big thank you to our speakers panel for their amazing and insightful presentations. We hope this discussion sparked interest in our delegates, and for those who would like to get as much as possible from the conference, please check out our Innovation Challenge, which you can find on page 10 of our delegate package. I'm sure that our speakers' interventions would have given you plenty of new ideas for such a project. And as the conference is coming to an end, however, we will now be moving to closing remarks given by our amazing chair, Jacqueline Plattis.
Thank you. And also just a reminder for all of our delegates, we have discount codes for all of these brands in our delegate package. So feel free to check that out if you do want to purchase or just stay aligned with them as we move forward. Then there's that options to make it more affordable for you as well, even more affordable. So thank you, everyone. I'm just going to highlight the Teams videos now. by stopping all of our panels. Thank you all so much. I hope you all have a lovely Saturday. I'm just quickly bringing the team to spotlight here because their hard work and resilience over the past year has been something that I could have never imagined. They were all first-year students or second-year students when we began, and we've somehow managed to successfully pivot through a pandemic and work together virtually all around the world. It has truly blown me away, this team's perseverance. So I just am asking all of them to come on so we can see their videos. Hey guys.
Hi.
Okay, I think we've brought everybody over. Do my counts. I'm not sure if Narinder's video is working, but she is here with us. Okay, still not working, she says, but she's here. She's a part of the team. There's 7 of us, and you know, we're all young, female, passionate about this topic, and we thank you all for joining us today. It was a huge success. We have truly, it's been a huge show of resilience working together, and I just wanted to thank all of our partners, sponsors, speakers for your time, our delegates for coming out on a Saturday. It gives me hope and shows true passion. I also have to thank Jonathan Yoon, who was on here with a question earlier, and he is pretty much the reason that all of this happened, other than the team, because he made us look legit. He made our logo, he made all of our packages that got all of these brilliant speakers and sponsors. So a huge thank you to him and to the team. And from me, thank you guys. Great job. I hope you enjoy your Saturday, and stay tuned for 2021. We're already getting ready to pop that out for you. Thank you all. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to send them to us via email. We will also be sending out a little bit of a survey for you to give us feedback on your thoughts and what you'd like to see next year. So that will be coming out sometime tomorrow or on Monday for you all. Thank you guys. I'm going to end the meeting, and I hope you have a lovely day.